years. When some of the world's top brands need a reliable company to prepare their sites for high-traffic events, who do they call? AmericanEagle.com. Their clients have come to rely on them for a full line of website services, from consulting and strategy to digital marketing, hosting, and maintenance. Give the team at AmericanEagle.com a call today. 1-877-WEB-NOW. The number 1 is the number. AmericanEagle.com is the website. 1-877-WEB-NOW. 1 is the number.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com.
Let's get an update on the roads in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center with Jim.
CTA Green Line service is cut off right now on the south side between Ashland, 63rd, and Garfield after there was an unauthorized person on the tracks. Same true of the Blue Line, with service not operating between Jefferson Park and O'Hare, with an unauthorized person on the tracks near Harlem on the O'Hare branch. Metro Union Pacific Northwest train 608 due downtown at 717 stopped near Pingree Road with a tree on the tracks. Inbound Ryan, traffic slows 75th to 71st with a crash on the shoulder. Then from the Stevenson to the Burn Circle, it's 20 minutes 95th to downtown. We're seeing slight delays on the inbound Eisenhower and inbound Stevenson. That's traffic. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next in our 1-hour heating and air conditioning weather center. Clouds and sun, we're seeing pop-up thunderstorms in the central part of the state. Should be here if the National Weather Service is right. Around 11 a.m. or so, windier as well. 85 for a high temp. Winds gradually subsiding overnight. Low of 57. Currently, it is 74. Your next news update is at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by The Insurance Guy. Tune in Saturday afternoons 4 to 5 for The Insurance Guy with Steve Lischewitz, president of SVL Insurance Group.
If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Some local flavor, since Illinois is one of the worst lockdown states and still in general lockdown, gradually at tortoise's pace emerging from lockdown. Mayor Keith Pekow, he is the mayor of Orland Park, Illinois.
Oh, yes.
A friend of the show. And he took video, because Orland Park actually has been sort of a leader in coming up with their own phased-in reopening, working with business community, as Mayor Pekow told us when he was on the show. Also trying to communicate with the governor's office.
Oh, they won't respond.
And Orland Park is not, some small, insignificant community. And it has gotten no response from Pritzker.
No.
It doesn't answer Mayor Pekow's questions any more than I'll answer yours. And so just a little summary from Pekow, including a new demand.
Good afternoon. Last week, the Village Board unanimously sent the governor a resolution that, among other things, asked that we open up restaurants indoor in a limited capacity. We use 14 days to move on to the next phase, like every other state, country, and expert we can find recommends. At this time, we have received no response. Again. We have tried to reason with and work with the governor and legislators. Frankly, we are getting nowhere. There is no logic, data, or science being shared to explain the restrictions we are living with. I call it weird science.
Yeah, he cannot be reasoned with, that's for sure.
And he has a communications director who doesn't communicate with people. She's just as bad as he is.
Some examples of the curious, ascientific choices that have been made, the protocols in place in this state and for Orland Park.
For months, we were told it was safe to go to warehouse stores, grocery stores, approved department stores, and hardware stores. However, you could catch COVID if you went to disapproved department stores or bridal boutiques or game stores. Where was the data that supports this? You can go to an essential store with hundreds of other people, but if you go golf with 4 people, you will get COVID. You were allowed to buy plants like annuals at hardware stores and grocery stores because apparently you can't get COVID there. However, you are not allowed to buy plants at a landscape nursery or at a flower shop. Apparently, standalone businesses that sell only plants are havens for COVID.
Uh-huh.
I watched this last night. I found it.
So the conversation he had recently with some Orland Park residents at a restaurant.
A group of ladies in two groups on a patio at a restaurant asked me about this the other day. I told them that according to the governor, you are allowed to sit at a table in a group of 10 people, indoors or outdoors. You can talk and socialize. However, if you want to eat or drink, it becomes dangerous. If you are inside, you must move outside. But when you go outside, you must separate 4 people from the group because groups bigger than 6 are dangerous if you're eating or drinking. Whatever you do, don't go inside and eat or drink. COVID is lurking. It is time for the governor to open up our restaurants and move on to the next phase at 14 days, which would be this Friday, June 12th. Right. Enough is enough. It's time to use real data and science.
But once again, Pritzker's being a hypocrite because phase 3, groups of 10 or fewer, and for the last 3 days, he's been in very large groups of almost 1,000 people, shoulder to shoulder, walking in protests. And it's so hypocritical. And he won't let our kids play sports, and that they need to be outside. And we need to open up the lakefront, Mayor Lightfoot.
For more on this, in terms of the economic impacts, and they're being felt in Chicago and Illinois, in the hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of economic activity being lost by not having concerts, by not having huge trade shows at McCormick Place.
Lollapalooza alone brings in millions of dollars to the
100
hotel industry and
hundreds
restaurants.
of millions.
Right. And that was canceled yesterday. She pretty much canceled all of summer. And she said yesterday we are $700 million in the hole due to coronavirus.
Sure, easy.
And that she will not take raising our property taxes off the table.
Well, that means property taxes are going up, but you
Yep.
knew that anyway if you're paying any attention. And the only question is, when does she go try to access that municipal facility the Fed set up the same way that Pritzker did last week to the tune of $1.2 billion of more borrowing? For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Stephen Moore, economist, Wall Street Journal columnist, author of Trumponomics. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Hi, guys. Good morning.
Yeah, things are going well in your home state, your former home state.
Yeah, I was just listening to that soliloquy. I mean, it is frustrating because we now have so many states that are opened up for business, that are opened up for restaurants and bars and for outdoor activities that Amy was talking about. And to see states like Illinois and New York and New Jersey and a few others laggards. By the way, the very states that have the worst economies to begin with are the ones that are the last to open up. Of course, that's because they have liberal Democratic governors and liberal Democratic mayors. And, you know, I was so frustrated in listening to what you were just saying because what these governors like Pritzker are counting on is some kind of big, pot of gold at the end of this rainbow. That's a big check that Washington's going to write to solve all your problems. And I'm here to tell you this morning, we're doing everything we can in Washington, our little group, Committee to Unleash Prosperity, to make sure that doesn't happen. There's no reason. We don't want to enable these politicians like Pritzker to keep their economy shut down. I mean, why in the world is Illinois shut down, but Indiana is open for business? I mean,
so is Wisconsin, so is Iowa, so is Missouri.
You're surrounded by states that are open. Just like in Virginia, where I live, where we have maybe the second biggest idiot governor in America. The same thing. Tennessee is open. All the bordering states, other than Maryland, are basically open for business. And it just makes no sense why. By the way, I'm going to just say this flatly. There is no reason that any business anywhere in America should be shut down today. Not one reason, especially liberal Democrats who basically gave a pardon to thousands and thousands and thousands of protesters to, take to the streets, but there's no prohibition against that. I mean, the logic here is you can burn down a hairdresser, but you can't open up one.
Yes. I wanted to get your macro perspective in response to something that University of Texas economist James Galbraith penned about the rapid U.S. recovery being illusory. He writes, the United States has built an economy.
I'm sorry, who's this, Dan?
James Galbraith, University of Texas economist.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
United States has built an economy based on global demand for advanced goods, consumer demand for frills, and ever-growing household and business debts. The economy was in many ways prosperous and it provided jobs and incomes to many millions, yet it was a house of cards, and COVID-19 has blown it down. What he argues is that, yes, you could very well see what many economists are predicting in terms of good numbers in the third quarter, coming from the nadir that we're experiencing now, or maybe we'll experience over the next 30 days. However, when things return to full operation, consumers are going to save more and spend less because of uncertainty, and you're not going to see the sort of rebound sustained in a way that many of the economists, from James Furman on the left to Steve Moore on the right, are predicting.
Well, first of all, let me just say this, that the idea that the economy was a house of cards before coronavirus is the most absurd statement ever. We had let's get the history straight, folks. I mean, it was only 3 months ago. We had the best economy in 30 or 40 or 50 years. And we had, rising wages. We had the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years. We had no inflation. We had gains for every ethnic group, by the way. Do you guys know, by the way, which group from 2017 through the beginning of 2020 made the most economic gains?
Black Americans.
Yes, by far. I mean, you saw the lowest level of black poverty virtually in the history of the United States, lowest unemployment rate for blacks in the United States, biggest wage gains for blacks. I mean, the idea that Trump is a racist, his economic policies certainly weren't racist. We saw more gains for black Americans 3 years under Donald Trump than we saw in 8 years under Obama. But of course, he was the economic savior for blacks. So it's just ridiculous to say that we built a very sturdy economy. What blew it down was these obscene and absurd lockdowns. Now, I'm going to maybe surprise you guys a little bit to say, maybe I actually agree with Gilbert. I actually think we've done severe damage to our economy. I think that these unemployment numbers, which were great, I mean, don't get me wrong, those were surprisingly great numbers. But let's not forget, we're paying people at the government level. We're paying employers to keep people on their payrolls. That's not the free market system, So I do worry that as soon as you start taking those payments away, what's going to happen to employment? Look, we did severe damage, folks. This was never again should we do what we did, where we shut down our economic engine. We've never. So I'm a little bit worried. You might put me in the Galbraith. I think this idea that you just flick the switch and the economy comes back on. I hope I'm wrong. But my goodness, I mean, you still got states like Illinois and New York and California closed. Those are three major states. You add New Jersey and Connecticut, you're talking about 25 to 30% of the national economy. So I do think it's going to be a tough row ahead, especially if we pass another $3 trillion spending bill in Washington. And we're going to bankrupt the country with all this spending, Dan and Amy. I estimate 52% of GDP this year is the government. Government doesn't add anything to the national economy. All it does is take away it. I'll say it every week, but I'm going to say it again. Dan, the only way that the government can give Amy $1 is to take $1 away from you. It's that simple. It's no magic formula here.
And that's exactly the direction the dollars go, from me to Amy. You got that exactly right.
About the Jacobson Fund.
There's no saying, if you pay Peter and Rob Paul, Peter's going to be pretty happy. So, Amy would be happy about that thing. But the point is, it doesn't add to the productive capacity of the economy. And look, but I will say this: if there's anybody who can kind of lead us out of this, Trump is doing the right things. He did a massive deregulation last week, getting rid of a lot of the regulations. We need to do the liability shield for employers so they can get workers back on the job. We need to stop paying people to stay unemployed. I mean, that was the dumbest policy ever. And we're still doing that through the end of July. Pelosi wants to keep that policy in place until the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And we need to do something like a payroll tax cut to give employers an incentive to hire more workers. But I'm afraid, if you look at the Pelosi bill, everything in that bill would do more damage to the economy than it would help.
He is Steve Moore, economist, Wall Street Journal columnist, author of Trumponomics. Steve, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Have a great week.
Yep, you too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
It's true. Difficult times have a way of focusing us. We have to think about what matters most when it comes to our spending, our health care. No doubt. This is why so many people are joining MediShare right now. MediShare is a trusted way to save up to 50% on your monthly healthcare costs More than 400,000 people have already made the switch. It's pretty obvious why, too, especially now during this challenging season with healthcare costs and out-of-pocket expenses going up. MediShare can save you a lot of money. The typical family saves $500 a month. And MediShare is a Christian healthcare sharing ministry that's worked beautifully for 27 years. There are different options to choose from to fit your budget. I'll give you the number here in a second. And if you call, you can get a price within 2 minutes. Maybe now is the perfect time to make the switch and start saving. Here you go. Call 844-57-BIBLE. That's 844-57-BIBLE. 844-57-BIBLE.
Warmer weather is